সুপ্রিয় দর্শক আপনাদের সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি TBN special, another episode of TBN special. Today's show is a bit different, and you'll find out why a bit different from regular sessions that I do. And I know, we all know, that what's happening around us, especially what happened in Venezuela today, late last night, and this horror show is happening. We'll talk a little bit about that too. But today, I have somebody special, and she is Rana Abdelhamid, is a Muslim community organizer based in Astoria, and the founder of Malika, a women's self-defense and community empowerment organization rooted in Queens. She first came into a broader political view in 2022 when she launched a primary challenge against that then Congresswoman Caroline Maloney. Though she later withdrew after redistricting reshaped the district, and it was totally, I would not run it at that point. So Abdelhamid, who is she? She's Egyptian American born, of course, but Egyptian American. She has been deeply involved in Middle Eastern, North African community, Bangladeshi community in Astoria, leading her efforts that helped push New York State to collect more accurate demographic. You have no idea how important it is. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Data on MENA communities. It's a landmark win after years of those populations being statistically classified as white. North Africans especially, are categorized as white. She is also a member of New York City chapter of Democratic Socialist America, and has signaled her intention to seek group's endorsement as she vies to succeed Zohran Mamdani. And this is today's discussion in Assembly District, New York Assembly District 36. So she vies to succeed Zohran Mamdani's the assembly seat, the state assembly. It's a part of competitive race with other, she's not part of DSA, but there are DSA members in it, okay? In this race. So it's a tight race, tight election, I'm assuming it's going to be. So I want to welcome Rana Abdelhamid.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming here in our studio, TBN 24. And, this is a very tight time for you, very tight race you're running. I'm sure you're working day and night with your team and stuff like that. We'll talk about all these things. But before we start anything, you are a progressive person.
I am.
You push for progressive agendas. Tell me, how do you feel of what's happening in Venezuela? In my opinion, it's a horror show. People say that there are terrorists, in Afghanistan, in Gaza, or whatnot, right? In my opinion, this is a terrorist act. Attacking a country, a sovereign country, abducting their president and his wife, right? Taking over their assets, such as gas, in this case, natural oil and gas. What's your thought on this? I'm asking you, there's a reason for this. Yeah. There were people who were saying, oh, we are electing Trump because he is going to end the wars.
Yeah.
Please.
I mean, if you speak to everyday New Yorkers,
right.
You speak to everyday Americans, they want basic things, right? We want healthcare.
Right.
We want access to quality education. We want access to quality infrastructure in our
right.
communities. We want childcare.
Correct.
We want affordability.
Correct.
And oftentimes our government is always pushing against these things, saying that these are difficult because we don't have the resources to pursue them. We don't have the resources to fund programs that our communities so direly need. But at the same time, it seems like we have plenty of resources to bomb and intervene in other countries. Even on Christmas Day, we struck Nigeria, right? We said that we were intervening there for quote-unquote human rights. We were violating international human rights. Here in Venezuela, we're also continuing to violate international human rights. And we're going against what we should be doing as a country. You need congressional approval for an intervention like this. The U.S. has no business getting involved in the sovereignty of another country in this moment. We should be focused on our own needs here. We should not be getting engaged in Venezuela. It's abundantly clear why we are.
Yeah.
It is harmful, oiled interests that are only going to create harm
right.
for the Venezuelan people and harm for the American people.
And I will tell our audiences, buckle up. because we don't know what's coming next.
Yes, we can only hope that it's short. Doesn't continue.
It's a horror show.
Yes.
I have worse words, but I'm just refraining myself from saying anything.
Yeah, and I think people have short-term memory sometimes. We saw what happened in Iraq. Over 1 million civilians.
It's the same copy replaying again in front of our very eyes. It's unreal. It's unreal. You know, it's hard to believe, to be honest with you. I'm going to come back. The reason I took your focus from the local level to the federal level to international level is because everything comes down to local politics.
100%.
Who we elect and what we expect from that person. Now, I know you are running for this NY Assembly District 36. Let's talk about your map and demography, because that's how I started your intro today. So we're going to see the map on screen, but give us your demography also so that we understand who are the voters and what's in that zone.
Yeah, New York State Assembly District 36 is actually, for me, not just this map. It's my home. It's where I was born. It's where I was raised. It's where I've been organizing since I was a teenager. It makes up Astoria and Long Island City. The majority of the district is Astoria. There is a hugely diverse community in this district. You have some of the largest public housing in all of North America: Queensbridge, Astoria houses, Ravenswood. You have a pretty substantial Middle Eastern and North African community. One of the largest Middle Eastern and North African communities in the Northeast is in this district. You have a large Latino community as well in this district, and an increasingly growing Asian community. Historically, there actually was a Bengali community in this district on 36th Avenue. Unfortunately, a lot of the Bengalis have left.
You were born here in Astoria?
I was born
Where
in Astoria.
Exactly?
I grew up on Ditmars Boulevard.
Ditmars.
Yeah.
So you know very well Ditmars and this part, the other part, which is if you cross over the highway.
Yes.
It was mostly Greek at one point, some point. And then it became the Bengali haven, right? And now this is Arabs. You have the Egyptians, you have the Lebanese, Moroccans, Tunisians. You know, it's happening in front of our eyes in our lifetime. It's very exciting. You know. Now, let me ask you this: you are running here. You are competing in this primary directly, and you have two other candidates. I'm not naming names. They're also progressive. They're claiming they're progressive. One of them is endorsed by DSA. We'll see who endorsed you later on in the show. So you are, you know, another progressive candidate, right? How do you separate yourself from those two progressive candidates?
Yeah, I think it's amazing that I'm running in a race where there are other women of color, where there are other women who have immigrant roots that are running in this district. I am a candidate who has a long history of doing work in the district, and that is why people asked me to run in this race. I passed a bill for this district. I started the Astoria Halal Fridge in this district. I run a mutual aid hub in this district that we've fed thousands of our neighbors. We've supported over 800 asylum seekers in the district. And so my work in the district, in the community, the fact that I've been here doing the work since I was 15 years old, people see that. And they want representation that has strong community ties. They want representation that's done the work.
Right. You have been very vocal about ICE.
Yes.
And I want to talk a little bit about the 30-60 rule. Yes. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's been a while. I'm going to come back to it. It's the shelter thing.
Oh, yes. Yes.
If it refreshes your mind. But I'm going to see on the screen how you've been talking about ICE. Let's go take a look at it. Your statement, your social media presence on ICE you're talking about. Can we see that, please?
As an institution was created in the context of anti-Muslim violence. It was created in a post-9/11 United States. Talk about it. In a way that was meant to surveil and police Muslim bodies. This is the reality that our struggles and the violence that our communities experience are incredibly interconnected. Yes. So when they come for me, they're coming for all of us.
That's right.
When they come for me, y'all show up for us, and we'll show up for you. So right now, as I stand here, we're hearing the hecklers, right? We're hearing the violence, we're hearing the hate, but I feel safe. Yeah. I feel safe in this circle.
Any message to people who are really still terrorized and fearful of ICE operations? And you have been vocal. Are you scared of them?
I mean, so many of my neighbors and so many people in my community that I deeply love are afraid. They're afraid to go to work because they're afraid that ICE is going to come by and separate them from their families. We had in our district a 6-year-old child who was separated from his father, then deported.
Right.
This someone who goes to a public school in our district.
Yeah.
I've seen an auntie, a hijab-wearing Muslim woman in shackles in court, picked up by ICE while she was going to visit her family on a short trip. This is someone who is in the process of getting her green card, who has been paying taxes in this country for 10 years, whose family are American citizens, and who had done nothing wrong, was freed because she did nothing wrong and because we stood by her. And everybody who is afraid in this moment has the absolute right to be afraid. And it's so important to know your rights, to fight against what is happening. If you're an ally, to speak up, because our neighbors are literally being kidnapped by ICE. The US government is breaking their own law. We're seeing this time and time again. And so you need to be very aware of what law you do have, and you need to stand up for yourself and for our community.
It's funny. If you're white, the law doesn't apply to you. Yeah. Not generally, specifically I'm talking about. Yeah. Especially nowadays, right? And you fought for your people, so they are not identified as white.
That's so funny.
How ironic it is. Ironic, I'm telling you.
Because we're not treated as white.
Right.
We're not treated as white.
Did you know how that happened exactly?
Yeah, I mean, historically, specifically with specific Middle Eastern countries from Saudi and Lebanon, you had Middle Eastern immigrants fighting for representation to be seen as white so that they're not excluded with Asian exclusion acts around migration.
Yeah. Very good. So, this country has history of violent, anti-white,
Asian.
Yes. And they have Chinese Exclusion Act, Japanese Exclusion Act, Asian Exclusion Act, Indian Exclusion Act. You know that they couldn't buy properties at one point. There was a Lebanese man who challenged 1952 in the court, saying, they denied his citizenship. So at the final hearing in the Supreme Court, he took it to the Supreme Court. The judge was about to rule against him. He said, "Judge, I have a final say." So he said, "Go ahead, do it." He said, "Do you know where is Jesus from?"
Yes, I know the story.
The judge said, "Yes." He said, "Is Jesus white or black?" He said, "He's white." And his argument was, "I am from the same place where Jesus is from." The judge ruled in favor of him. And since then, the North African were categorized as white.
Yes, I know the story very well.
And it's not a story, it's a fact. It's a true story. Anyway, whenever you have progressive candidates, they often run on movement politics.
Yes.
Right? But face institutional constraints once elected. We're going to see it in real time happening in case of Zohran Mamdani, the seat that you're running for now, right? Special election. What specific position are you prepared, difficult question, to compromise on in Albany, and which are non-negotiable? Yeah,
I mean, the interest of my community is non-negotiable.
Okay.
The well-being of my community is non-negotiable. The safety of my community is non-negotiable. And when it comes to compromise, I know that there are going to be moments in which hard decisions have to be made, but those decisions I will make with the constituents of the district that I represent. Those decisions will be made in coalition of the organizations that are helping me run this race. And I do not plan to take an easy route, just the way in which I'm fighting to get in this seat right now, just the way I've been fighting since I've been a teenager for the rights and the people of this district. I will continue to fight so that we are well taken care of. And I will not compromise on our well-being.
It's good to hear that.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I hope you don't, because that's what matters. That's who you are. That's what we are. You are promising it. In this case, promises are kept.
Yes.
Right, kind of thing. Okay, let me ask you a different question. In New York Assembly, right, operates through leadership.
Yes.
Right. You have the committees, the deal makings, and So how will you balance your progressive agendas as an outsider, right? And posture with the insider mechanics that requires actually to pass the legislation?
as someone who has passed legislation, I passed the Middle Eastern North African data disaggregation bill. I've been part of many coalitions that passed bills before. I know what it looks like to make the sausage. I know what it looks like to have to collaborate with different elected officials. I've worked closely with our deputy majority leader at the state Senate level. I've worked closely with elected officials who may not align with me on everything. But we've been able to find common ground to actually deliver for people. And a lot of the things that progressives want right now, they're wildly popular. New Yorkers want universal childcare. New Yorkers want affordable housing. New Yorkers want to know that their taxpayer dollars are not going to fund genocide, that they're going to support the people here in the district. And so I'm not fighting for anything that is not wanted by Democrats, by people in our communities. And all we need is the political will and the fight to make them happen.
Okay, we'll see.
Yes.
Now, one of the challenges people like you, people like us, is that we represent, such as you represent multiple identities.
Yes.
You are Muslim, you're female. Doesn't really help in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Right? So you're Muslim, you're Egyptian, you are a female, woman of color, right? How do you ensure, your identity does not substitute for policy outcomes?
Yeah. I mean, even alongside this, as I'm going through this campaign, I've already experienced Islamophobia. I mean, our campaigners were outside on New Year's Eve talking to voters and people were shouting no Sharia law at us, right? That is nowhere on my website. Have I written those words? I have never, ever put that forward. But when people see a hijab wearing Muslim woman, when they see a woman of color, I think that oftentimes there's so much stereotyping that comes with that. And we saw that with Mamdani's campaign as well. There is such a reality of vitriol and anti-Muslim violence. And I think the best way to fight against that is to continue to be unapologetically myself. To showcase through my work and through my commitment what I'm about, and to put aside this fear of the other, but really by continuing to talk to our neighbors. I literally just came from door knocking a building, introducing myself, getting to know people's issues, talking to them to understand what matters to them. And I think through those conversations, engaging with more people, then they really understand what I'm about.
Okay. So on this note, you and majority of all of the progressives, right, have been critical of traditional policy, or policing. Let's talk about policing. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What does public safety look like on a Friday night in Queens, right? If a police presence is reduced. Let's just think about this one, and what would be your proposal? How do you see it? This is an argument they make. So
of course.
I'm posing that question to you.
Yeah, it's an important question because safety is the top concern for so many New Yorkers. It's also a top concern for me. I'm someone who's actually a survivor of a violent crime. I've walked down the street and have been attacked because of who I am. I care deeply to make sure that our communities are safe. I teach self-defense for a living. That is my work. And for me, my understanding, and also this is in agreement with many police officers who align with me, is that not every single role should be outsourced to police. There are a lot of things that could be outsourced to mental health professionals, for example, right? People who are trained as de-escalators, who are connected to community, who actually have resources. Now, anytime there's an issue, there's one number that people know to call. Which is 911, right? And oftentimes, police are not even trained or prepared to show up in that way. And they actually agree with that as a factor in reality as well. So they want to see different kinds of presence. They want to see more structural solutions, mental health facilities, affordable housing, economic opportunity, things that would actually root out the real deep challenge rather than addressing things at a surface level. So Queens would look safer that night. Because we would have invested in housing, we would have invested in mental health resources, we would have gotten gun violence off of our streets.
So, in other words, you're saying that having police is good on the street. However, you are trying to address the root cause that causes those issues that drives people to call 911.
we need to address the root causes, and we need to make sure that we have additional support through mental health infrastructure,
Right.
so that we're addressing root causes in our communities. That keeps our community safe.
On the same note, many of the shopkeepers, you know many of them.
Yes.
You know,
I work with them.
Yeah, the little Morocco there,
Yeah.
you know, 𝗧𝗕𝗓, and there's a Lebanese one, 𝗓𝗏𝗂𝘂𝘁
Suzanne.
right?
Yes.
So you know them.
You know all of them.
Of course. So there are many of the immigrants and working class residents, especially Arabic speaking, the South Asians, Bengalis, Latino shopkeepers, right? Often you see them. They ask for more the police presence, right? Why would they trust your model over their lived fears?
So I actually just had a small business roundtable as a part of this campaign. I brought together small business owners from across the district.
Right.
And the things that they talked about that were most important for them was rising rent, for example.
Absolutely.
Was the bureaucracy around permitting and licensing that is so challenging. Was even sanitation came up.
Yeah.
They talked to me a lot about the fact that now, because of increasing tariffs, so much of their material, food, right, has become so expensive.
Yeah.
And because of rising rent, they can't keep up. So when I talk to small businesses, these are the issues that they talk to me about. Of course, safety is a concern, and they want to make sure that our communities are holistically safe. So in addition to making sure our communities are safe, I would also fight for commercial rent stabilization.
Right.
And I would fight to make sure that our small business communities have the capital grants and funding that they need when things are difficult, that they have a place to go to find the extra cash so they can keep their doors open and they don't have to shut down. My father owned a small business on Broadway when I was growing up. And I saw how much love he poured into that small business. But I also saw the day that we had to shut it down because of rising rent. It was very painful, and I want to make sure that nobody has to experience that.
Yeah, there are two reasons. I mean, many reasons, but two or three main reasons that the small businesses, pops, mom shops, goes out of business. There's one of the rent, affordability, connection, and then you have nowadays you have this tariff. So whatever you are importing, costing you more, but you are scared of passing that down to your consumer because you are fearful of losing your business, right?
Yes.
But you are actually paying much more than what you used to paying. That puts you out of business. So that's a terrible situation now at this point. On top of that, if people start losing jobs, things become even more unaffordable. So there's like a double-edged sword right now. So you are proposing many things that I was going through your website and your issues that you are running on. One of those things are universal childcare. So let's stay on that for now. Universal childcare, cost and feasibility, right? So this sounds great, but definitely great. I'm a big supporter of that. Some people say it sounds really great on paper, and then if you ask the Republicans, they will say, this is how we are wasting our tax dollars. So I'm going to come back to that. But New Yorkers wants to know the numbers, like how much that costs. So how do you pay for it without raising taxes on working class, especially, right? And middle class families? You can walk us through your scenarios.
Yeah. We are not proposing increasing taxes on working class families. We're actually providing a benefit to working class families. When we talk about universal child care, we're talking about a reality that understands that early child education has to start before 3 years old, but rather should start as soon as the parent needs to go back to work. There should be child care infrastructure in place as a community, as a public good. Just like we understand that high school is a public good, just like we understand that college is a public good, we should also understand childcare to be a public good. Right now, people are paying almost double rent because they're paying for childcare. The average cost of childcare in a district like mine comes close to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible for working families to be able to afford to pay for childcare in the city. That's why so many working families leave New York City. When we're talking about how we're going to pay for it, well, we're not talking about taxing working people. We're talking about taxing the rich. And that is very specific. It makes no sense right now that the people who are making tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, are not experiencing a progressive tax rate, are oftentimes paying the same amount that someone is paying who is a working class person. Everybody should pay their fair share, and though that money that is being spent, that money is being taken, is going to be spent back and invested back into our communities where we need it most.
So it's the same concept that AOC, Bernie Sanders, Zoran Mamdani are talking about. You are not saying anything much different from that.
I mean, it's the same bill, right? There's a bill that's been introduced. It's a Universal Childcare Act.
Right.
And so as a state assembly member, I would fight for that bill.
Okay. I was just looking at some of the numbers. In 1930s, in this country, there were only 30 millionaires. You know, $1 million back then, it's $1 billion today, right?
Yes, very.
So that number actually in 1970s became 150 to something. 1990 is 300. Today, you have 100 billionaires. No more,
So much.
millions, right? 3,000 billionaires. And now they are coming up with a new word because they are considering those billionaires are not rich enough. So they will only consider you in that league if you make $100 billion.
So wild. I mean,
how does that sound?
The amount of time that someone would have to work to even get to the 1 million. Right? 1 billion, you could never even spend that money if you lived 500 times. Why would anyone need that?
Some people may think that I'm helping you in this, but I'm not. I'm just putting the numbers out there because I do my own research. We have a live caller. Would you like? Are you interested to take that?
Up to you.
Okay, let's go. Take it. কে আছেন আমাদের সাথে? Hello?
আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
হ্যাঁ, ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম, বলুন।
হাবিব ভাই, আমি বাংলায় কথা বললে হবে নাকি ইংলিশে বলতে হবে?
বাংলায় বলেন, আমি ট্রান্সলেট করে নিব।
ওকে। আমি আপনার সামনে একজন আপনার ওই যে ক্যান্ডিডেট আপনার সামনে বসছেন, উনি কথা বলতেছেন। তো আমার প্রশ্ন হলো যে দুইটা প্রশ্ন। প্রথম প্রশ্নটা হলো যে আপনার এই যে ওনারা রেন্ট কন্ট্রোলের কথা বলতেছেন, এগুলা কি বড় বিল্ডিং যেগুলা কমার্শিয়াল বিল্ডিং? নতুবা এই যে আমাদের 1 ফ্যামিলি 2 ফ্যামিলি বাড়ি এগুলা সব মিলাইয়া এগুলা কি রেন্ট কন্ট্রোলের কথা বলতেছেন? প্রশ্ন 1। আর প্রশ্ন 2 হলো ওনারা সব সময় মনে করেন এই যে বলতেছেন আমরা টেনেন্টকে এই করব, রেন্ট রেইজিং করতেছেন, রেইজিংটা বন্ধ করবেন, এই করবেন। এই যে টেনেন্ট আছে, যে হাজার হাজার টেনেন্ট আছে, মানুষের বছরকে বছর রেন্ট দিতেছে না, কোর্টে বছরকে বছর কোর্টে যাওয়ার পরে এটা ডিসিশন হয় না। তো আমাদের মতো ছোট ছোট যারা আমরা ফ্যামিলি 2 ফ্যামিলি বাড়ি নিয়ে আছি,
আপনার কিন্তু দুটো প্রশ্ন,
হাজার হাজার ঘটনা নিউজ।
বুঝতে পেরেছি।
ওনাদের কি কোনো টেনশন আছে? দে হ্যাভ এনি টেনশন ফর দিস?
আচ্ছা, আপনার নামটা আরেকবার বলুন, আমি ভুলে গেছি। আচ্ছা, the brother called and I think this is a very good question.
আমার নাম হক, আমি ব্রঙ্কস থেকে কথা বলতেছি, আমি একটা কমিউনিটিতে
thank you বুঝতে পেরেছি, ধন্যবাদ আপনাকে। প্রশ্নটি খুবই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। It's a very important question, and I'm glad that he called in and asked this question. He's saying, listen, someone like you, Zoran Mamdani, and AOC, there you talk about this rent control. First of all, first question, where does it apply? The small landlords who owns 1 or 2 apartments, or the larger multi-unit buildings, where does it apply? That's question 1.
Yeah. So rent control typically applies to larger buildings. There's a definition. I think it's like 8 units or more.
Okay, 8 units.
And I could, double check that.
Okay,
but something like
generally
that.
speaking.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. Okay.
It's typically looking at corporate landlords, buildings that have a much larger number of units, rather than someone, for example, owns a home, is renting to someone, and they're trying to pay off their mortgage.
Correct.
That is not who we're directing any of this information.
Second question is, I think, even more important, and I think this is where rubber meets the road.
No, please.
He said there are people like us, like him, who owns 1 or 2 units to rent out. And there are renters who come in and stay there and then don't pay the rent. They get stuck with this bad renter, and whenever they call for help, they get run around in the court. They end up stuck with the utility bill because the law tells you that you can't turn it off. You must keep paying, even the renter is not paying. And then the water bill. And then this guy has to pay his mortgage, and he relies on this rent. what do you guys have a solution, or do you? He said, "Do they feel for me?"
Yes,
I mean,
I do. I feel for you. I do.
And there's an Arabic term for it. I'm not saying it, but you understand what I'm saying.
𝗓𝗑𝗏, as you say in Arabic. Yes, I do feel for you. I believe, in addition to, so much of my campaign is this message of building a New York City where you can stay.
Correct.
Home ownership is the key part of
Right.
building a New York City where you can stay. If you're a homeowner who is trying to pay their mortgage, and wants to make sure that they have the revenue, especially in New York right now, home ownership is so difficult. The idea is not necessarily to penalize
Correct.
a small landlord or to penalize someone who is, renting out a small space.
Right.
That is not the goal. We're talking about corporate larger landlords.
Right.
We're talking about exploitative landlords
Right.
who are harassing their
Right.
tenants, who have a record of harassment. And of course, we want to make sure that, if you are a small landlord, you're not losing your home because someone's not paying.
Right.
So there could be schemes and rent relief programs that would help, or mortgage relief programs that might help a small
But I
homeowner
think,
like that.
it's not in the system right now.
Yeah, it's
the
not.
bad renters, there are bad renters. They are bad actors.
There's
Believe
bad
me.
everyone, yes.
And they are exploiting this poor landlord, who's landlord by name.
Yes.
He is not landlord.
Yeah.
He is also paying mortgage.
Homeowner.
The actual landlord in this case is the bank.
Yes.
Right. So I
bank.
wish, I hope that you hear these kind of people,
yes.
and when you come and if you are elected, if you win the election, then you'd come up with something that actually protects this kind of people
Yes.
who really need help, because there is nobody who talks for him. So let me translate it in Bangla really quick.
Please. And I want to just say, if you can translate it too, that I do really appreciate the question, and I do feel for him. Like, I don't, take that for granted.
So, হক সাহেব, আপনি যে ফোন করেছিলেন যে রেন্ট কন্ট্রোল আসলে অ্যাপ্লাই করে প্রযোজ্য হয় অনলি বিগ ছয়ের উপরে যখন আপনার ইউনিট থাকবে সেই ক্ষেত্রে, তখন রেন্ট কন্ট্রোল কর্পোরেশনের ক্ষেত্রে বড় বড়, আপনার মতো আমার মতো যারা আছেন স্মল রেন্টার্স তাদের ক্ষেত্রে না। এটি একটি ব্যাপার। দ্বিতীয় ব্যাপার হচ্ছে যে কথাটি আপনি বলেছেন, এই কথাটিকে আমরা সবাই জানি যে দেয়ার আর ব্যাড অ্যাক্টার্স, অনেক রেন্টার আছেন তারা সুযোগ নেন। এটি আসলে আমি তাকে বলেছি যদি উনি ইলেক্টেড হন উনি কি এটি দেখবেন কিনা। এটি আসলে আমাদের সবাইকেই উই হ্যাভ টু ব্রিং দিস ইন দ্য ফোরফ্রন্ট and then make that a case. আপনি বলেছেন খুব ভালো হয়েছে, আমিও চেষ্টা করব ইনশাআল্লাহ, we'll see. Okay, so let's start on housing because we're running out of time.
Okay, let's talk about housing.
Housing for all.
Yes.
A big promise. What do you say to critics, like one of the brothers we had called, I would call him critic.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you say to critics who claim this unrealistic? That's a lot of people say that, and risk creating more bureaucracy than housing. Your response?
I mean, right now there is a lot of, I would argue, yes, there is a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of bureaucracy around building affordable housing.
Right.
There's a lot of bureaucracy around making sure that public housing tenants and NYCHA gets the money that they need in order to make repairs.
Correct.
There's a lot of bureaucracy around getting small homeowners the resources that they need to make sure that their homes are flood resilient and climate resilient, right? So that our basements aren't getting flooded, our homes are not getting flooded. And so what's really important when we think about Homes for All and Homes for All guarantee, housing for all, is that we're thinking about a multitude of interventions. Obviously at the city level, there's the opportunity to extend rent control and make sure rent stabilization is a reality. And this is for the existing units of rent stabilization. That so many people, I live in a rent stabilized apartment, for example, so many people benefit from, but we also need to build more affordable housing.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
This is key. I mean, in where I live in Astoria, it makes no sense that there's a studio apartment that is $4,000. How can you raise a family?
Unbelievable. There was a time in 90s when 3-bedroom apartment in Astoria, good size, I'm talking about not those pigeon-sized
Yes.
apartments. I'm talking about real-size apartment. It was like $2,500.
Yeah. I mean, I have aunties.
This is 30 years, not
Not
too
that long ago.
right?
Yeah, I have some of my elders in my community. I see their lease from 1980.
Yeah.
A 3-bedroom, $600.
No
I mean,
kidding.
this is a different time, but
Same thing in Jamaica, Queens, by the way.
Yeah.
$600, $700. Now you can touch them.
yeah.
You can touch them. Let's stay on this for a second.
Yes.
If new housing requires upzoning in Astoria,
Yeah.
right, and nearby neighborhoods, are you prepared to go against community opposition to get it done?
It is very important that we upzone when we need affordability. That is part of the equation at times. And I think community input is going to be key for this. When you have conversations in community, I have been on the front lines of many fights
Right.
around upzoning and rezoning.
Right.
But in those contexts, the rezoning and upzoning was paving the way for luxury development and not for affordability. Most of the critique is of the luxury development.
Yeah, that's what we see in 21st Street and by Long Island City by the river.
Exactly.
Keep going.
What people want is they want housing that they can see themselves in, that they could see their families in, that they could raise their families in. And most people, when they are engaged, when you're doing the community engagement process, you're explaining the benefits to the community, they will want that.
Yeah. I was just when we were talking about a little this restaurants, we talked about Little Morocco and Dozan and all these things.
Sure.
One restaurant was very favorite to me. I spent a lot of time in I would say late 90s, or early 2000, around that time. Leil Beirut.
Yeah,
right?
Leil Beirut.
Changed.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's so sad. It's very
So
sad.
much has changed.
So much has changed.
So much has changed on that street.
Anyway,
Yeah.
You talk about building a strong local economy.
Yes.
We're talking about the small shop owners to a strong economy. But many small businesses say new regulations, the regulations are strangling them, right? Are already suffocating them in a way that, they can't really run business.
Yeah.
Do you or your policies, some of the policies, do you think it will risk making that worse, or will it help them? And if you do have any policy that helps the local business, one or two, if you could mention.
Yeah. I actually met today when I was door knocking a small business owner in the district who said that it took her family 6 months after they already started renting the location.
Yeah.
They've done everything. 6 months of roadblocks in
Right.
permitting and filing.
Yeah.
And all the bureaucracies that it takes to open up a small business. It should not take that long. It should not be that long in New York City for you to be able to get the filing that you need to start your business. Many countries around the world have been able to figure this out. Many countries have been able to figure out how you can open a business just in 2 days, right? You go to one office, the one-stop shop, you file the paperwork, you get it done. And so my proposal is to create a small business hub in the district, not just having the commerce hubs that we have per borough, but really having something hyper-specific where if you have a challenge, you're dealing with an issue, filling out the paperwork. MWBE, for example, you have a place that you can stop by that is going to help you, that is going to support you, that is going to help you navigate the bureaucracy and actually limit the bureaucracy. We need to facilitate and make this process simpler.
Yeah.
And right now, we're making the cost too high for our small business owners.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of things we talked. I wish you had more time. I had more time. I'm going to have to bring you back in the studio again. I know it's going to be a busy time, but I'm going to have you back again.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Right. Now, if you were to make your case that why would Bangladeshi American who are watching this show today and will be watching later in the social medias will vote, who lives in Astoria, once again, if you could remind them who they are in terms of where they live in your zoning, and why would they vote you? What would you do for them? What's your case if you were to make your case?
Yeah. If you live in Astoria, if you live in Long Island City, I hope to earn your votes and your support. I'm someone who has been rooted and based in this district my entire life.
Yeah.
I watched my father run his small business. I saw the struggle of working class people. And because of that, I started organizing.
Yeah.
I started fighting for this district. I distributed thousands of hot meals to our neighbors. I've passed a bill already. I've moved over $2 million in resources for safety infrastructure into this district already, even without a seat. And so I'm ready with a seat in the assembly in Albany to fight for our neighbors, to make sure that our small businesses have the resources that they need to make sure that we have affordable housing, to make sure we have universal childcare, and that our immigrant neighbors are safe. I'm going to fight for you.
Yeah.
And I would be very lucky to have your vote.
So if you're watching anywhere, যেখান থেকে আপনি দেখেন না কেন, if you want to find out more about her, Rana Abdelhamid, for New York State Assembly District 36, if you do a Google, it will take you to her homepage. And if you find more about what who has been endorsed, what are the endorsements you got so far?
Yeah, I'm endorsed by Congresswoman 𝗧𝗕 𝗧𝗕 I'm endorsed by Council Member Natasha Williams, the Yemeni American Merchants Association, Bangladeshi Americans for Political Progress, BOP, and Africans for Political Progress.
Very well. Now, if you guys are interested, আপনারা যদি interested হয়ে থাকেন, you can find her, Rana Abdelhamid. Go to her website. She's running for New York Assembly District 36, specifically Astoria, and find out more about her issues and what she's running on, the platform she's running on. And if you can, support, if you do support her, you can donate her and then join the cause. Rana Abdelhamid, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And thank you once again for making time and coming here. And we will see you again.
Yes, inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. এখনকার মতো বিদায় নিচ্ছি, সবাই ভালো থাকবেন, শুভরাত্রি।
TBN 24 টেলিভিশন দেখতে আজই কল করুন 7187776556 লগ ইন করুন www.totalcablebd.com।
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TBN 24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।